Grâce à Jean Rouzaud et au festival Formula Bula de Saint-Ouen, voici le secret le mieux gardé de la bande dessinée américaine. Kim Deitch, fils du dessinateur et illustrateur Kim Deitch, un artiste rare dont la carrière débute en 1967 avec le comic The East Village Other et se poursuit jusqu'à devenir du grand art, rencontre au sommet de l'underground américain.
Light on your door to show that you're home when you think the night has in your mind.
Alors cette grande expo, elle s'appelle Kim Deitch, le secret le mieux gardé de la bande dessinée américaine, parce que les gens vous voient comme un artiste underground et ça fait partie du côté icône.
Well, yeah, well, that's just what I stumbled into. I had the great good luck, when I came. When I left home, basically, to stumble into a really exciting new art movement. When I was a kid, they still had EC Comics, they still had Captain Marvel, all kinds of crazy stuff. But then it all got really kind of dull and stupid. But then, Marvel Comics started coming along, and I'd say that was a huge influence on me. It wasn't so much the content, although the writing wasn't too bad, but it's just the dynamic presentation. It was this dynamic delivery system of words and pictures. And, I'd already started doing fine art, and it was even selling it. But amazingly, just that moment, the underground newspapers started coming up. And really, I don't think I was in New York more than 10 days when I was working for the East Village Other. That's the good news. The bad news was they weren't paying me, so the art director started giving me selling me dope so that I could sell pot to people, and so that's how I was making a living at first. Felix the Cat was working for the CIA in this story, and he recruits Waldo to do this job. See, he doesn't have the one on him yet, but he goes into this machine that takes his chromosomes and reduplicates them, and then, they end up with 9. But see, here they're all being killed.
La difficulté pour comprendre Kim Deitch, c'est que les gens se sont trouvés devant des comics qui ont l'air d'être très enfantins, avec plein de petits bonshommes, et un dessin très soigné et très fouillé. Donc déjà, il est assez dur d'entrer dedans. En réalité, Kim Deitch raconte de vraies histoires, des romans, donc c'est long, c'est ce qui en fait la qualité, et ce sont des romans pour adultes. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a plusieurs niveaux de lecture. Il y a l'histoire de l'entertainment, mais il y a des héros à l'intérieur qui ont des histoires d'amour, comme dans une tragédie américaine. Certains deviennent fous, certains deviennent alcooliques, certains sont trompés par leur femme. Mais c'est vraiment l'histoire de ce qui pouvait se passer dans les années 20, 30, 40, etc. dans les gens qui fabriquaient du cabaret, de l'entertainment, des dessins animés, des comics, etc.
Even when I was a really little kid, I always had the feeling like I was born too late, like the party had come and gone already, but there was all kinds of evidence of it still around, like they were showing silent movies on the kiddie shows and silent cartoons for years and years, as I was growing up. When I was a kid, on New York's 42nd Street, there used to be a place called Hubert's Museum. It was like the last of the dime museums, and you could see the old freaks there. I actually saw a flea circus there. But yeah, I just had a thirst for the popular culture, essentially, of the earlier part of the 20th century, This is kind of my homage to the great movie posters, probably from, about 1909 to about 1938. All the movie posters, or virtually all the movie posters, were drawn.
La grande influence de Kim Deitch, c'est que là, vous voyez, avec une simple bichromie, c'est-à-dire rouge et bleu, il réussit à faire une affiche complète avec les streamers, les typographies très différentes. Et même si les proportions sont étranges, vous voyez, c'est pas du dessin absolument classique, il met cet art de la typographie, de l'affiche au service des grandes fresques où se mêle le délire humain, mais dans un cadre américain de l'entertainment, ce que son père a vécu et ce qu'il a vécu lui-même à travers d'abord les comics des super-héros et ensuite la free press. The entertainment is so washed up, so clean, so dull, so boring, that something is going to happen.
Yes, I do think that, you know, something new will come along, and I suspect it'll probably be some way, shape, or form in electronic media. I mean, I hope it is. I'll tell you, the one thing I've always missed in comics was you couldn't have music, you know. And now, you know, that's a possibility. I mean, I'd like to do something with music.
Midnight.
It sounds jazz, definitely, even though we don't have the music.
That's a real song. That's the Street of Dreams, you know. It's like, I was sort of thinking of the Bing Crosby record of Street of Dreams, which is a nice record. You know, there's a tune to it. See, I'd love to use music. How does that go? Like, love laughs at a king, kings don't mean a thing. On the Street of Dreams. That's the tune. There's still a lot more to be done in just sort of fine-tuning the medium. You know, when they started suddenly calling comics graphic novels, I guess Will Eisner coined the term. My first reaction was, oh, how pompous, you know. But then I started thinking, maybe comics could be evolved so that you could tell more sophisticated stories. And that's actually one of the things I've been trying to do in my last few books. You know, I read as many books as anything else, and that's influencing me as much as anything else. You know, like great Victorian literature, the French guys I really dig. Alexander Dumas, I've been reading a ton of him lately. But, you know, the English, Charles Dickens, I mean, he was really picture-oriented. You know, he was like, he art-directed the pictures of his novels, you know. And so I learned a lot from studying the illustrated novels of the 19th century, too. This is a bona fide novel. I mean, there's more words, but there's a whole lot of pictures. It's not like it was any easier to do, but it was very satisfying to me because I don't think I could have told this story in just straight-ahead comics. Oh, there's Jesus throwing. There it all is. I forgot it's right here. He's throwing the money changers out, doves, sacrificial doves. Jesus Christ is in the temple throwing the money changers out. And there's this Arab guy over to one side. He's got some kind of a machine that's pouring acid through a horn onto the outside of these revolving discs and etching scored lines along the side. But when he's back in his camp that night, he's noticing that the lines are all jiggled here. But then when he runs his needle along it, he hears Jesus throwing out the money changers. You know, he's accident, because that's the thing, you know, the phonograph, there's no reason why it couldn't have been invented in 1500 or something. I mean, there was no electricity involved. A smart cuckoo clock inventor could have come up with it, you know.
There we go.
Okay.
This is serious. It looks like the trip to the moon.
Yeah, well, that was a big favorite movie of mine. I collaborated with my brother Simon on this book, and actually this page here is his layout. You know, I'll tell you something. When I first went off on my own, what I really had a hankering to do was to become a movie director, but I realized that was not a logical idea, because there would always be somebody telling me what to do if I was lucky enough to even be able to do it. But now it's different. Now, you know, if I was 18 years old now, I think I might actually go into making movies and doing it by making them. I mean, I was making movies before I was doing comics anyway, you know. As a teenager, we were doing cartoons, live-action movies, all kinds of stuff. You know, I had a 16mm Bolex camera. But then, you know, I read Jules Feiffer's book, Great Comic Book Heroes, and he's just sort of talking about what was so great about comics, and the one line in that book that really sort of fired me up was when he referred to comics as movies on paper. And I thought, yeah, that's it, movies on paper. Comics now, there's something, even though it's been around since the beginning of the 20th century, even before that, it hasn't really evolved much. It's sort of in a state of arrested development. More could be done with this. But the interesting thing is, the point I'm sort of zeroing in on is that this was an idea that was in the air. You know, I sort of feel like I invented underground comics, but then there's a whole bunch of other people living in different parts of the world who were also thinking they invented underground comics because it was just in the air. Sometimes a thing is in the air. And in the late 60s, I think it was comics.